talk about our comrades in the Black Panther Party. So we can start off by understanding that, of course, I would be remorse if I didn't continue to ask for your humble donation. Again, we're helping to raise money for our comrades in Burkina Faso. So you can see the link at the top of the page there. These resources help to go to building work study circles. They also help to go to educational services, so purchasing books, pencils, supplies, writing utensils, things of that nature. And so part of what I want to help articulate us on today, or what I hope we can help articulate each other on, is how much the Black Panther Party kind of set the bar for us as African people, understanding that we really have always had everything that we have needed to change our own conditions. And I think even asking you all to consider donating to our patreon.com/Burkina Books website is another example of that. You know, we could easily sit back and just find all these different churches that are already doing missionary trips at home on the continent, but we're not interested in getting support from other people that don't have the same ideological perspective as us. Excuse me, I would think the biggest reason for that is because if they don't think the same ideologically, then they're probably not investing in the same information that we are. They're not seeking the same knowledge. They're not looking for the same intelligence that we are, which means they're not going to be influencing our people the way we need them to. And so I think it's really important, again, when we think about the Black Panthers and how their organization today, on this day, almost 60 years ago to be exact, 57, was established on October 15th and was such a great, monumentous example of how everyday people, once they are united, can literally change the course of history, herstory, their story. The Black Panthers have continued to show us what that has looked like, and everyone who knows anything about them knows that we can use them as a foundational blueprint for how we have navigated through this world, again, not relying on the help of the capitalist entity, not relying on the help of imperialist America, but making our own resources out of what we had access to so that we could be responsible for changing the conditions of African people who were in need of that. Not even relying on the US government, because a lot of these social service programs didn't exist until the Black Panthers initiated them and offered them and disseminated them. So we can think about how the initial onset started from the diaspora West Oakland streets and then became this recognition on a worldwide basis. Worldwide, the Black Panthers made a deep impact and mark, leaving their legacy for us to still be talking about it today and to still be humbled at the work that they did so that we would be able to sit here today. And if we have children, they can benefit because they now have breakfast offered at their schools. We can benefit today because if we know anything about sickle cell anemia, we know that before the doctors and the hospitals and the clinics were offering testing, the Black Panthers were doing that. And they probably were doing it in communities where we didn't have transportation and other resources that would make it harder for us to get to those places. So the Black Panthers were addressing health disparities. They were addressing what we call social determinants of health in the public health world, where we basically think about all the things that are modifiable or not modifiable that can affect our abilities as human beings to achieve healthy outcomes. But the Black Panthers saw that, and they saw that as a means and to an end so that they could help us achieve those things. The Black Panthers bravely demonstrated the importance of self-defense, courageously demonstrated that, helped us to understand that resistance is what we are made of. It is in our bones. It is in our blood. It is in our legacy. It is our heritage. It's in our hair. It is in our teeth enamel. Resistance is everything that we have known to be because we have been fighting since the beginning of time. And so the Black Panthers kind of just demonstrated, and it's okay to continue fighting. It's okay to not accept European American standards. It's okay to not accept European white supremacy. It's okay to not accept those things. It's okay to refuse systems of oppression. They may not have been as advanced as we may consider the party to be today, but I'm sure that the Black Panthers, if they were still working in the same space that they were in would probably be engaging in other resisting forms of oppression. So they might even be engaging in some other forms that we can talk about, where we can think about Islamophobia, or even what my dad was talking about earlier, supporting our Occupy Palestine movements and whatnot. We can also think about how the Black Panthers showing their resistance and showing what the importance of self-defense was, how we can turn that into understanding why we have a responsibility to understand what it means to have weapons training, why we have a responsibility to understand what it means to take those things seriously and to study them and to understand how to use those tools, because we are under attack. Ideologically, yes, but also physically, we are under attack. And we can continue to think of examples of how that continues to play out. I love this picture that we see on the slide because it's a clear example of our people who may not have had the highest knowledge or literacy to understand what sickle cell anemia was, or more importantly, where they should go to get tested, or not even knowing that they should get tested. But none of that was an issue because the Panthers brought the clinic to them. I just can't stress enough how important that is. It's such a beautiful thing because a lot of our people struggle with access. We struggled with it then and we struggle with it now. And so just thinking about that as an example, all the food giveaways that they did. How many times did they organize events where food was given away at no cost to families? The dental services that they provided, dental services, you all. You know how expensive going to see the dentist is, but that was, again, not a barrier that we had to worry about, because it was because of the Panthers that folks were able to learn more about oral health and they were able to take a different approach. The free breakfast program. I'm always blown away when I think about that because the federal government wasn't even providing anything like that. And so when we think about these social services, these bold ways of helping communities that even US governments were not considering at that time, we can even continue to give the Panthers credit, because had they not been offering those supportive services before the Black Panthers, we would continue to see the circumstances get worse and worse. And more importantly, it kind of teaches some of us who were not really understanding just how much the Panthers did for us. It's kind of teaching them that these services were just not always existent. Again, the only reason they became existent is because they were in competition with eradicating, terminating, and ultimately neutralizing the Black Panther Party as an organization. And so we think about that more as it comes, because this is another example of why joining a political organization that's working for justice, this is an example of just how effective that can be if you have people who have an objective, if they understand the importance of increasing their political education, and if they're so motivated to make a change that they're not interested in relying on the same system that put them in that predicament in the first place. And again, I would ask you, what have we learned from the Panthers? Next slide. If we can think more about that, well, we can think we've learned overall that we don't need to rely on systems of oppression. I think they've done an incredible job of explaining that. I think they've done an incredible job of demonstrating that. They have literally showed us time and time again that they don't need anything from the European white man. They don't need anything from imperialism. They don't need anything from capitalism. They want to stay as far away from those systems because, again, these services are based on socialist principles. And so that tells us that the Panthers wanted to terminate capitalism. They wanted to eradicate it as much as possible because they wanted to live in a world where people actually mattered more than income, more than profit, more than money, more than monetized elements. They wanted to live in a world where everyone had access to tests for sickle cell anemia if they needed to. And I would want to live in that world, wouldn't you? Because in speaking to people who have sickle cell anemia, they call them warriors. That is a really tough disease. And so we should be able to share as many resources about that as possible with those folks who need access to that. We shouldn't be keeping that from them and slapping a very large dollar amount on it so that if they have that dollar amount, then they can get the information that'll change their life. But if they don't, I guess they'll never know. That's not a humane world, you all. That is not a humane world at all. And so we just think more about what the Panthers had done, setting the significance of what being in an organization was like. And more importantly, if we learn anything from reading books from some of our comrades who were active in the party. So maybe you read Assata Shakur's book, maybe you read Elaine Brown's book, then maybe you read Eldridge Cleaver's book, maybe you read Dr. Huey P. Newton's dissertation. We can understand why it was so important to be an organizer, because all of them talked about that in some way, shape, or form in their literature books. They talked about that. They talked about that being an organizer means that for this particular organization, it means you had to be people driven. You had to be. Because again, these social services are doing what? They're benefiting the community. They're benefiting society. They're literally changing the course on how we navigate society. Because instead of having hungry children go to school, which is stupid because we know the children are not going to pay attention, they're going to get tired, they're going to fall asleep, they're going to be antsy, they're not going to be able to sit still. Now we can think of a way to actually bring food to these babies' stomachs, so that they don't have to just think about food all day long, but they can actually focus on the information that's being taught to them. The Panthers understood this. They understood this. And I think it's so important to think about how they had these objectives, and then they found a way to make the reality support those objectives. And they managed those objectives. They didn't just offer one day of free breakfast. This is why joining an organization is so important, because it needs to be continuous. It needs to be constant. It needs to be ever flowing. So if you're in an organization, then you're in a better position to support whatever interventions you're putting in, so that our people can still benefit on a managed system instead of it just being a one-time thing. The Panthers demonstrated that a few people with a plan and direction could literally capture the moment and change the course for the rest of the time. They also gave examples of why fighting back, resisting, and basically not accepting the US way. That's what resisting means. It literally defines that you don't have to accept this lifestyle. You don't have to accept that you just live in the US and you just have to deal with it. You don't have to accept this lifestyle that money is more important than people. And I know the Panthers resisted that 60 years ago, but you all can still resist it today. You can still resist that ideology today. You do not have to accept that propaganda. That is your choice if you choose to accept that. But I'm willing to bet you're on this seminar right now because you know that the system we lived in is messed up. You know it is. You know that it is not right. You know that it does not treat people who are colonized right, or marginalized right, or LGBTQ right, or differently abled right. You know that. We don't have to tell you that. So if you know that, then what are you going to do about it? Because the Panthers have already demonstrated joining an organization was in their best interest. So perhaps you should consider doing that. Perhaps you should consider joining an organization so that you can make a long-lasting impact in the same way the Panthers did. The Panthers influenced us to understand that we are the ones that we have been waiting for. We do not need Uncle Sam. We do not need nonprofits. We do not need any of these things that are rooted in what? Capitalist greed. We do not need that. That has not helped us at all. If anything, it has made our conditions much, 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 much worse. So we need to fight back as much as we can. And the best way to do that is to resist capitalism and to find a way for capitalism to be threatened, basically, which means taking a socialist approach. And so we can understand that the Panthers demonstrated for us that we don't need to rely on anyone. We need to educate ourselves, though, and we don't need to rely on anyone for that. We have resources available. I just said joining an organization working for justice would be the best way to do that, but you can find whatever your political education journey is, because maybe that organization has a list of reading materials that you can pick up. It's important for you to not only access the materials and start engaging in some deep philosophical reading, but it's also important for you to be able to discuss it with other people so you can really break the concepts down. This may seem really foreign to some of you, but you may read something and think it's one way. And then when you talk about it in your organization, it's a very different approach that other people took from it. And it gives you something different to think about. It gives you something different to unpack. And so it's like, you're at a point where you already have so much information, but yet being in a work study circle or being in a circle where you're increasing political education and then talking about what information you have ascertained, those are so delicate and so necessary for the work that we're doing, because we're taking in the work theoretically so that we can apply it from a methodological standpoint. And that's really what it comes down to. And so the Panthers, even today, almost 60 years ago, since their foundation, The influence of the Black Panther Party is found in all sectors of our people's struggle. Anywhere on earth, we can think about how many of us, if we know what's good for us, have referenced them at least once in our lives, hopefully much, much more. But at least once in our lives, we have referenced them because we see the value in what they have done. We see the value in that. We're not ashamed of them. We're not afraid of the descriptions that exist for them because we know what they were really about. We know what their intention really was. And we stand with them because without them, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here ideologically. We wouldn't be here socially, and we probably wouldn't be here physically to some extent. So we're grateful for what they have done because we know that their work, as I said before, offering the breakfast program, we know their work of offering the health clinics. We know their work of the educational programs and the literacy programs that they had offered. That set the bar and changed the course of everything that we know today because everything was impacted differently because the government couldn't afford for some African organization to outdo them. They couldn't afford that. And so they had to be in competition because that's what imperialism is and make it look like they had always had plans of offering a better plan that was outdated and so much better and all these things. And so as I close, it's important for us to understand in 2023 and beyond that we need to have a responsibility of learning from the Black Panthers and not just learning from them and saying, oh yeah, they were great. That was such a great organization. Not just that, but taking what they did and continuing their legacy. I am pretty sure if any of our ancestors, some living and some that have passed, were sitting with us as we're tuned into this seminar, sitting right next to us. You can take Assata Shakur if you want and go to Cuba to talk to her. You can take Elaine Brown. You can take Eldridge Cleaver. Any one of those ancestors, if they were in the same vicinity as you, listening to you talk about the Black Panther Party, I am pretty sure, with as much material that I have read, I am pretty sure that they would not want you to just say, yep, those were the days. I don't think they would want you to say that. I think, as my dad just pointed out, you're not supposed to just say, yeah, in the 1960s we fought, and then you don't have a plan on how you're fighting today because the fight is not over. There's still very much a fight that is necessary for all of us. There is still very much a fight. I mentioned to my parents last Monday, that was the day after the news broke out about the Hamas taking back their land and fighting back. And so last Monday, I got an email from my university, which is in a blue city, but it's in a red state, okay? So I got an email from my university saying, Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, we stand with Israel. And I almost threw up when I read the email. I almost threw up. I literally almost threw up on my phone because I was thinking to myself, the propaganda is real. So when I tell you we still have a fight, y'all, you all are asleep if you think we're in a post-racial war. You're asleep if you think we're in a post-sexist war. You're asleep if you think we're in a post-homophobic war. You're asleep and you need to wake up. You need to wake up yesterday because we are counting on you. We are counting on you. And the war doesn't just stop in the US. The war is literally everywhere. He just gave you numerous examples. He talked about the sanctions in Venezuela. He talked about the sanction in Zimbabwe. He talked about the sanctions in Haiti. We have all these different examples of Africans who are under attack just because they are tired of colonizers in their gosh darn country and they have a right to fight back. So do the Palestinians and anybody else who wants to fight back. So we have a responsibility to stand with them. We have a responsibility to educate ourselves. And we have a responsibility to join an organization that's working for justice, increase our political education, or start our own organization that's working for justice, or support a Pan-Africanist organization that is working for justice. But any one of those choices is going to be very detrimental to our outcomes, to our livelihood in the next couple of years, and most important, to the future of our children who have not even been conceived yet. We have got to stop thinking just about ourselves. We need to think about kids that we don't even know, because it doesn't matter if you know them. They deserve a better world than what we are living in. We deserve a better world. So it's up to us to fix it. Join an organization that is working for justice, start one, or at least support Pan-Africanist organizations by donating money to the link you see on the slide. Ashe.
Ashe, obrigada. Obrigada. Thank you very much. And we just want to talk about just some facts about the Black Panther Party. And we want you all, as you hopefully copy the URL to our project in Burkina Faso, the Thomas Sankara Center for Liberation and Pan-African Unity. People support Black businesses. I mean, the hell with that. Support revolutionary African organization on a worldwide basis. So here's an opportunity. Please do it. No one will do it. If we don't support our own struggle, who the hell else is going to do it, you all? So let's talk about some facts about the Black Panther Party from a critical analysis. Like, we don't need to, as Shakur alluded to, we're not trying to glorify any of our history. We're trying to use our history for the purpose it's intended, to help us understand how to put the pieces in place to move us forward, right? So we talked first about Kwame Ture's statement when he said that any analysis about our people that doesn't include the enemy is incomplete. Any analysis about our people that doesn't include the enemy is incomplete. So that's for the people who look at the Black Panther Party and say things like, well, Huey Newton's drug usage destroyed the Black Panther Party. Eldridge Cleaver's misogynistic patriarchal views destroyed the Black Panther Party. Certainly, the behaviors of those individuals at periods of time of their participation in the Black Panther Party, certainly without question, was a detrimental impact on the party. No question about that. If you study anything, if you look at anything of the work that we do, I've written extensively about those contradictions from those two individuals and many other people in the Black Panther Party. So we don't need you to tell us about that. We've been writing and talking and educating about that before you even knew who these people were. But our point is that those elements alone are not the reason why the Black Panther Party was obliterated. And we need to talk about that, because we know that in 1968, J. Edgar Hoover, the longtime director for 54 years of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that criminal organization in this country, he told the Johnson administration that there were, based on a long-term study the FBI had done on the Black Panther Party for 2 years running at that period, they had determined that there were only several hundred hardcore Black Panther Party members in the country at that time. But what they were concerned about is their estimate was that 44% of African youth 25 years and under supported the militant program of the Black Panther Party. And even if we don't have the capacity to see beyond our individual selves, those crackers understood clearly that this represented the potential of that movement to grow. And that is why they intensified their struggle to destroy the Black Panther Party. And the way that they did that was by institutionalizing their counterintelligence program. They had at least 267 actions, burglaries, framings, assassinations, all of these types of things that were designed to discredit the African liberation movement. 267 actions between 1967 and 1971. And of those 267 actions, 233 of them were aimed directly at the Black Panther Party. And this was because, as we mentioned, and we want to make sure it's clear, like the Black Panther Party's programs, free breakfast, sickle cell anemia, dental assistance, food giveaways, these should not be seen as just strictly mutual aid programs. Not attacking mutual aid. Mutual aid is a great thing. But these programs were carried out by the Black Panther Party because in their analysis, they thought that by instituting these programs, it would help raise the people's revolutionary consciousness so that they could build around their Marxist-Leninist program. And we don't have time to go into what Marxist-Leninism is. And if you're looking at Fox News and CNN and CIA, and that's your understanding of Marxist-Leninism, then you got a whole lot of work to do. But our point for this program right now is that they were trying to gear our people towards a socialist program. And they thought by instituting these socialist influenced programs, it would help do that. And that probably was a very good strategy. I think the error that the Panthers made was their emphasis on the lumpen proletariat, or the criminal element among our people, and focusing their organizing efforts around the lumpen. I think was a critical error. And again, we don't have time to go into that deep into that class analysis. We've done many workshops about class structure in the world today. You should go back and check them. They're all on video. But our point is that we think that was a weakness in terms of the Black Panther Party's approach, and it played into the government's efforts to destabilize and destroy the Black Panther Party. And then some other facts that we want to talk about is that there is absolutely no question from anything that we know, and that the people who were there, their testimonies, the study on the subject, whatever type of analysis and critical reflection you want to gauge, that Dr. Huey P. Newton, when he went to jail based on the August 28th, 1967 shootout with Huey P. Newton in the car in West Oakland, and the police officer Fry, or whatever the hell his name was, that was killed, and Officer Henson that was injured. When he went to jail because of that, they wanted to charge him with murder of that brutal cop who brutalized our people in the community of Oakland for years before that. The man that went in jail, Huey P. Newton, was a totally different man when he got out of jail on August 5th, 1970. Totally different man. And we would suggest that the program of torture that was engaged in the Oakland Alameda County Jail, inflicted on Brother Huey P. Newton for 3 years, had a severe impact on his mental health and his ability to function and be able to be the effective leader. I think the attorney, the Black Panther Party's attorney, Charles Gary, said it perfectly. The man that came out of prison was not the leader that went into prison. And there's no question about that. And that's not making any excuses for Huey's behavior in the 70s, but it's just saying that you cannot just look at Huey in the 1970s and understand what happened to the Black Panther Party, because this was a concerted and systemic effort to destabilize the Panther Party. And we know now that much of that involved chemical treatment against people that were incarcerated. And if they engaged in that kind of treatment against people like Donald DeFreeze, who was affiliated with the Seminole Liberation Army in the Bay Area a few short years after the Black Panther Party's prominence in the early 70s, then it's highly likely that this was one of the many things that they employed against Huey P. Newton in the Alameda County Jail. So that needs to be said. And the core day-to-day work of the Black Panther Party, it has to be noted, was carried out largely by women and marginalized people. I know that the Black Panther Party is often depicted, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Fred Hampton, Eldridge Cleaver, David Hilliard, Geronimo G. Jaga, Bunchy Carter, and all of these folks, the Fadura Wahad, all of these wonderful organizers, Zaid, Shakur, all of these folks, David Brothers, they without question had a significant impact on the Black Panther Party. But there were a lot of women who contributed to the Black Panther Party beyond Kathleen Cleaver, Elaine Brown, and Erica Huggins. There were women that kept the day-to-day operations of the Black Panther Party alive. And we know that's true because I belong to a revolutionary political party today, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. And it's women and marginalized people that keep the day-to-day operations of this party going. Although there are many men that most people know, and maybe I'm one of them, but we can never discount the impact of women and marginalized people in this struggle for justice. And the FBI, again, exploited everything they could to promote violence within the Black Panther Party. So we can't just watch the movie, I can't remember the name of the movie about Fred Hampton, with the brother Daniel Kaluuya playing Fred Hampton. I don't remember the name of the movie, but the point, Black Judas, whatever it was. But the point is, when you look at that movie, they portrayed the role of William O'Neill in sabotaging Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, and the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. Certainly without question that happened. But it's important that you understand and we recognize that this was a nationally coordinated program. And I would argue that William O'Neill wasn't even the most effective FBI informant in the Black Panther Party. George Sams was just as effective, if not better. Cotton Smith out here in California was just as effective, if not more so. The Black Panther Party was littered with informants. And these informants, in the case of William O'Neill and Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, providing the FBI, Roy Mitchell, the FBI field agent responsible for that sabotage, with a diagram of Fred Hampton's apartment, which allowed the police to know where to shoot in the apartment. When they did that on December 4th, 1969, know where Fred Hampton's bedroom was, know where the head of his bed was. They knew that because of the information supplied by William O'Neill and the fact that Fred Hampton was drugged and was unable to react to the shooting and was therefore a sitting duck for them to kill him. Without question, this was a part of the coordinated program of COINTELPRO. The fact that George Sams played a role in setting up Alex Rackley for murder in Connecticut, and that Alex Rackley was indeed murdered, and that people that were not even there were able to be implicated as a part of their strategy. People like Bobby Seale and Erica Huggins, and these were things that really impacted the Black Panther Party's ability to function. The Panther 21 in New York, what the federal government was able to do is take the Panthers away from revolutionary organizing work and make the primary focus of their work to become raising money to get all these people out of jail. And that was once they began to be that, the whole Free Huey campaign and all the other people they had to work on getting out of jail, this government knew they had them right where they wanted them. And they were able to exploit and manipulate that to the fullest extent that they needed to do so. And again, you know, we talk about Fred Hampton again, like the things that they did to separate the Black Panther Party. I'm talking about this backward government from the masses of people. You know, the Black Panther Party had a practice. Many of the leaders would do their speaking engagements. They would use profanity, for example. Again, the Black Panther Party's focus on the criminal elements within our community. A lot of those people were in the Black Panther Party. They were carrying out Black Panther Party work, or at least they were identified as belonging to the Black Panther Party, but they were also still engaging in many of their criminal activities that adversely impacted the African community. The FBI became aware of this because of the mass amount of informants they had operating on a day-to-day basis within the Black Panther Party, and they were able to effectively strategize and exploit those weaknesses. And the way they did that was by painting the picture of the Black Panther Party as an organization of thugs and criminals. And once they were able to spend some time painting this picture of the Black Panther Party, they were able to assess the level of agreement with that assessment among the African masses. And once they were convinced that enough people began to see the Black Panther Party the way these crooks and thugs wanted them to see the Black Panther Party, they knew they were A-okay to go full in attacking the Black Panther Party. And that's why between 1968 and 1971, you had 33 Black Panther Party offices attacked by police agencies in a nationally coordinated program. You had 30 plus Black Panther Party members killed. You had sabotage pitting the Black Panther Party against the US organization of Dr. Matlana Karenga, and Black Panther Party members were killed in those skirmishes. And they were able to do that. And what was the response of the African masses? Oh, that's what them niggas deserve, because they ain't nothing but a bunch of criminals. Our people didn't respond to that by standing up in mass and organizing against this government. For the most part, we did nothing, because we thought that the Black Panther Party deserved those things happening. And if you say, well, that's not true, think about it like this for a second, because we love to say that and we don't know what the hell we just don't know. We don't analyze and study. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're involved in radical political activity, like I have been my entire life, my own sister, now most of my family's deceased, but my own sister is still living. Shakur is here, doing the same work I'm doing. So I'm not worried about her. But Shakura can speak up if I'm lying about what I'm about to say. Her aunt, my sister, has no political consciousness whatsoever, zero. And I'm telling you right now, if something happened to me and they went to my sister and they asked her, yeah, you know, your brother was involved in criminal activity, terrorist activity, you know, if they said it the right way to her, I am not convinced that she would not say, yeah, you know, he always was into that kind of, you know, radical kind of thing, you know, I'm not convinced that she would not respond that way, because she doesn't know, she's never studied, paid any attention to my work. She couldn't tell you, if you put a gun to her head, the name of the organization I belonged to for 40 years. She couldn't tell you that. She can tell you what our objective is. So if you don't know those things, it's impossible for you to convince me that they can't give you misinformation and confuse you. And that's the challenge that we have, right? That's the challenge that we have as a people. So, you know, the lessons that we have to learn from that, as we show the Panther 21 who were framed in New York, accused of wanting to blow up the Statue of Liberty and other ridiculous things. And that happened. And what did our community do to protect them? I mean, virtually nothing, because of this campaign I'm telling you about. So how do we combat that? How do we prevent that from happening? As we again show you the URL, the Thomas Sankara Center for Liberation and Pan-African Unity, please support the necessity for institutionalized political education. Kwame Ture talked about it. There are so many books about the Black Panther Party. Huey P. Newton had 2 of them, Revolutionary Suicide, To Die for the People. Bobby Seale had one. The name is escaping me. It's a very good book. It'll come to me in a minute. David Hilliard had This Side of Glory. Elaine Brown, Taste of Power. Shakur said, Asada Shakur Sada. Geronimo Gijaga, formerly Pat Pratt, had to Stand Alone. I can't remember the exact title of that book. I've read all of them. There are many others as well. Flores Forbes had a really good book. Right? I just finished the one not long ago from DC Cox. Can't remember the title of that one. All of them said the same thing, that the Black Panther Party did not have the type of institutionalized political education. Now, there are some Panthers today running around that are defensive, and they're like, we did have political education, but objectively, clearly that was not true. And this was the warning Kwame Ture gave the party in 1968 when he was Stokely Carmichael. So if you study it, there's a history. Clearly, this is not true, that they didn't have that. It's essential that our organizations have organized political education programs. What that does for us, you all, I'll just give myself as an example this weekend. And I'm doing this with the understanding, I'm nothing special, you all. You can do, there are many of you out there who have much better capabilities than I ever could have. I have absolutely no question about that. I don't have that kind of ego. I'm just trying to do the best that I can to honor the sacrifice of my ancestors. But there are many of you who can make a much bigger contribution. But this weekend, I met with the work study circle that Shakur is a part of. We met for 4+ hours. We studied and struggled for 4+ hours. Today, I have my cadre circle, which is the more experienced members in the party. We met for 4+ hours. That's like 8.5 hours in a weekend of political education. And you might say, well, I ain't finna do that. I ain't got time for that. I gotta smoke. That cuts into my weed smoking time. Okay, I get that. I'm not even gonna argue with you if that's your foolish position. But what I am gonna say is that I'm not saying you have to spend 8.5 hours every weekend. I don't spend 8.5 hours every weekend on political education, but you gotta spend some time on it. Because what that does for me is, like, Shakur and I do these presentations every week. You go back and look at it, go to abetterworld.me. We have 300 of these presentations that we have presented since 2020. Every week, we have over 300 of them. And these presentations, we prepare each week. And we don't have to hire anybody. We know the information we're presenting to you because we study it consistently. Neither one of us is talking off of any notes. We didn't write anything. I don't have anything written in front of me. I know the history. And that's because we consistently participate in political education. So unlike so many of us, we're not fooled by the confusion. We know when it comes to our people's struggle for liberation, we know what the hell we're talking about. So when the clown on Friday tried to tell me, well, what about the murders of Hamas? And I'm like, what? I don't believe any of that nonsense. But I told him, because most of you, when they say that to you, you got to backpedal because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But I told him, let's just say, for example, they committed every atrocity they're blaming them for. They have every right to do it, goddammit. They've been under siege for 80 years, and you can't tell me if somebody was in your house terrorizing you for 80 years, you got every right to do every goddamn thing you could do to get them up off of you. And nobody can disagree with that. And I told him that. Oh, I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to be intimidated by the crocodile tear BS. They got every right to do that. I don't understand. They should have done it a long time ago, because the Zionist state of Israel is beheading their children, raping their children, murdering their people. At some point, Frantz Fanon's logic has to come into play. You got to get these people by speaking the same language that they speak to you. And he couldn't say nothing to that. He couldn't refute it. Whereas a lot of you have been out there, well, yeah, you're right. I don't condone violence. What kind of nonsense? Anybody from representing the U.S. side of stuff and the capitalist side of stuff accusing you of condoning violence, and you ain't even, if you killed a fly in the last 5 years, you're doing good. You're on the defensive against that. That's a damn shame. We are not going to let them do that to us. You don't have the moral capacity to talk about violence. You're as Martin Luther King Jr. said, the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet Earth is the United States of America. Their goddamn Star-Spangled Banner is nothing but talking about bombs exploding. It's a violent song. Their Star-Spangled Banner glorifies slavery. These people, this whole foundation is based on violence. And you got them putting you on the defensive. The only reason is because you don't know the history. That's why political education is so important. It'll improve your confidence. Because when you know how to talk to these crackers, your whole demeanor is totally different. And not only that, you all, it's totally different how they deal with you. I'm telling you that. And next, with political education comes principled tools, democratic centralism, which is true democracy. We practice it in the AAPRP. It is a wonderful thing. And we don't have time to get into it. And again, we have seminars. We've talked about my book, and we've had whole workshops about my book, A Guide for Organized Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. And in those workshops, we've broken down democratic centralism, what it is, how it's practiced, how it creates a healthy environment in your organizations, and ferrets out corruption and all this backward stuff that a lot of organizations suffer from that we don't suffer from. So doing that, and organized criticism, self-criticism is another thing. 2 sessions with 2 circles this weekend. I'm very reflective because I live in a culture where that is practiced. I'm always self-reflective of myself. I don't have the type of ego where everything is everybody else's fault and I'm not doing anything wrong. The first thing I think about is, damn, Ajama, what did you do? How could you have done that better? I'm constantly thinking about that because I want to be better. That's what the culture of criticism, self-criticism does for you. These tools, criticism, self-criticism, democratic centralism, inside of an organized political education process. If the Black Panther Party had that, they would still be here today. They would still be here today. I believe that 100%. But I have nothing but respect. I was raised by Black Panther Party members. I have nothing but love and respect for them. And that's why we're talking like this, not to criticize. If you take it like, well, they criticizing the Black Panther Party, then, I mean, just, take some rocks and pour them down your throat or something so you can sit down and not move. I don't know what to tell you. if that's the message you're getting from this, that is not what we're doing here. What we're doing is taking the errors and trying our best to learn from them so we don't repeat them. And it is my hope that the errors I've made, the younger organizers like Shakura and the people in her circle can take those errors and learn from them. I'm not offended that they recognize my errors. I want them to recognize them so that they can not make them. And I'm sure our Black Panther Party ancestors and elders feel the same way. And I know they do because I talk to many of them on a regular basis. And so we must always be in tune with the masses, meaning our African culture in practice. We have to be in tune with where our people are at. And that's important. And that comes with that humility that you learn through these processes I'm talking about. So honor and respect on this day of the Black Panther Party, October 15th, 1966 to October 15th, 2023 and beyond. We love the contributions of the Black Panther Party, and we call on everybody to get involved and make your specific contribution to forwarding that struggle, whatever way that you can. And we ask you to join us next week, October 22nd, the International Day of Solidarity Against Police Terrorism. We're going to be talking about the worldwide gangster activity known as policing. So join us for that. Go to the APRP Forward Ever shop and buy something radical and revolutionary Pan-Africanist to wear and give to other people to wear. You know you're getting ready to celebrate this capitalist holiday, those of you that do that. So support Revolutionary Independent African Organization and buy something for somebody that's going to raise their consciousness. Don't give them no reactionary stuff. Join the All African People's Revolutionary Party. Go to aprp-intl.org and do that. Go to abetterworld.me and you can look at all of these videos. Hood Communists, support Hood Communists, Revolutionary African blog. The QR code there and the URL are there for the Thomas Sankara Center for Liberation and Pan-African Unity. Please support that. Support all of the AAPRP programs identified on the bottom of our screen. Hopefully you can see that. We want to let you know that we are starting here in this area, the Don't Let School Interfere with Your Education workshop series. These are in-person events, but they will also be live streamed. The first one will be Wednesday, November 1st. The topic, Israel, Palestinians, and Africa Explained. Israel, Palestinians, and Africa Explained. So please put that on your calendar. It's going to be at the Sacramento State University campus. The information is there on your screen. You can reach out to us for abetterworld.me for more information about that. But come out to that, and please continue to support my book, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. The book is about how we get organized. I have not profited off of a single cent. Every cent goes into anti-fascist work and work to build the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. So please buy the book, tell people to buy it and support it. That's how we fund our work. We appreciate each and every one of you. We ask you to get informed. Go to our work site again, aprp-intl.org. If you are uninformed about the Palestinian struggle, go there and find out. Don't let these people lie to you and fill your head with a bunch of nonsense. Go find out what's really going on and get on the right side of history. Join an organization fighting for our people, fighting for justice. Forward ever, backwards never.